Islamic State, as we see Mosul being cornered now by Kurdish and Iraqi and Western Alliance forces, I do worry that as we squeeze Mosul and eventually Raqqa is taken in Syria, that these jihadists will not abandon their evil ideology of killing and slaughtering and maiming people that don't agree with them. They believe in this kind of Sunni supremacist ideology that unless you obey entirely their way of looking at the world, that the only fate you deserve is death. I worry that some of them will be heading to Europe and perhaps others will be returning to South Asia. So I think we have to watch out very, very closely over the next year or so what it means if ISIS finally does collapse. Because there are tens of thousands of jihadists who have been sucked in from all over the globe to fight that war. If they're defeated, I don't suspect they will surrender. They will try and wage and create mischief and horror elsewhere.
So that is what most of the Western governments, including US, they fail to understand, that this terrorism, it has certain philosophy, it has certain politics and ideology. It is nothing like mafia-type terrorism that you can handle with force by law enforcing agencies. Just last month, I was addressing a couple of seminars in Washington, D.C., that I found that even the civil society, as well as the policymakers in the State Department, they consider that, well, their homeland security is good enough to address this kind of terrorism, and they have successfully, suppressed it, and they have killed number of Islamic militants, as well as we have seen in France, as in Bangladesh as well, till now, since Holy Artisans incidents.
The social fabric of society maintains external connections and views militancy as a legitimate means to attain their goals. In Bangladesh, we have names such as the Harkatul Jihadul Islami Bangladesh, HUJIP, Jamatul Mujahidi Bangladesh, JMB, Hizbut Tawhid, Shahadat al-Hikmah, Ansarul Bangla Team, Tamiruddin, BEM. The transnational links of the above-mentioned Islamist organizations may be seen as follows. We know that the Hizbut Tahrir...
I think what we've heard today is there's still a great deal of misunderstanding of the nature of Islamist organizations. Jamaati Islami and the Muslim Brotherhood have often been seen within Western discourse as primitivist. We have treated such organisations and their representatives within British culture in particular in a patronising, colonialist and ultimately a dangerous way, without recognising that these are very sophisticated organisations that have networks of an international nature.
Well, the need for resistance to terrorism is clearly there. But what can we do about it? Of course, the Bangladeshi government should take more initiatives, which they partly already did. It is first and foremost the task of the government of Bangladesh to deliver safety and security to its civilians, especially to the minorities. It means also that they have to implement law of constitution. However, paralyzed by political...
Leading for current policymakers, politicians, journalists and researchers to start focusing on life story narratives and domestic issues when it comes down to radicalization and extremism. Of course, the role of religion cannot be ignored, but from the experiences I have, there are larger playing factors. As a matter of fact, I would argue the more religious the youth is, the more unlikely they are to leave their countries and engage in a foreign fight. When examining the motives of European foreign fighters, I discern a number of factors. Factors that we can collectively and domestically solve as countries. Discrimination on the labour market, structural racism and racial...
There should be a campaign among the European diaspora to counter extremism in Bangladesh. I actually wonder how many young people, young Bangladeshis in Europe really care that much about the home nation. It talks to something that Martin Bright was talking about earlier. In the work that I've done in London,
secular humanism in Bangladesh and other parts of the world. So what is your view about the future of secular Bangladesh and secularism as a whole?
Well, it's a hope that I have. A view is that it's a good thing. Bangladesh was founded in 1971 as a secular country, and it's famous for its Bengali respect for equality, for culture, for writing, for intellectualism. And I think if you see the rise of jihadism, Islamism, political Islam, call it what you like, you are putting the clock back hundreds of years, in my view. We're going back to a medieval form of governance, which I think would be tragic for Bangladesh. Bangladesh is known, throughout the world as a country which has allowed women to rise to political power. It's done fantastic work for the UN in international peacekeeping operations. It's a very large populated country but small territorially, and has had a lot of challenges, in terms of national disasters, floodings, and so on. But in spite of that, Bangladesh remains a beacon of hope in the Islamic world as a country which is modern, progressive, and secular. And I have been a strong critic in particularly the issue of the way Jamaat Islami has had strong links to the BNP. I've always said that the BNP must sever its links if it wants to be a respected mainstream centre-right party in the international community. And I'm hoping that is the way ahead. But this is a battle going on everywhere.